Welcome to Tuesday with Terry, the podcast for getting your mind, business, and life in shape. Hosted by Terry Blachek, one of the original area developers for Orange Theory Fitness, who helped launch the brand from the very beginning. He'll use his years of experience to help you shape up your mind, build strong relationships with your teams, revamp your business processes, and set down the path towards success in all aspects of your life.
Good morning and welcome to another podcast. My name's Terry. I'm your friend. We're going to talk a little bit today about people management, but I'm talking to you live from Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, the barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are absolutely free over here. If you're hanging out with me, I guess that's a good way to put it. A lot of people ask me about where are the drinks free. I never see the drinks free, but I say if you're with me, I'll buy you a free drink. Come on over and be my guest. You know, today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about people management, and we spent the last few weeks talking about goals and setting up your year, setting up your life, and hopefully you've spent some time to do that. And last week we spoke to Sherry McDonald and talked about her success story in business with Orange Theory Fitness and also with Kid Strong and some key points. But, you know, a lot of people say to me, Terry, what's your secret sauce or what's your secret to success? And I say the same thing is my success is really dependent upon my ability to put a team of people around me and encourage, train, teach, motivate, inspire, and hold those folks accountable, to a common objective or towards a common goal. So what I wanted to share with you is some ideas about people management today and just some things you can kind of take home and put in your toolbox, a few more tools to put in your toolbox. But, Walt Disney said it best, of all the things I've done, the most vital is coordinating the talents of those who work for us and pointing them towards a certain goal. Walt Disney said that, and I say that. I think if there's one thing I'm probably pretty good at, it's at getting a group of people to focus on a common goal or an objective and kind of making a dream into a reality. And that's what we did with Orange Theory Fitness. I wanted to just share with you about why people make the difference. And as you think about your team and you think about your group of people, I just wanted to go through a couple questions for you that you can just kind of ask yourself as you start to look at your team and say, number one is, do I have the right team in place? Do you have the right team to help you win? And the way to do that is you rank that team. If you have 8 direct reports, if you have 12 direct reports, if you have 5 direct reports, it doesn't matter. But rank them top to bottom. Who's the number 1 person on your team, the number 2 person, the number 3, etc. So once you've actually ranked those people from top to bottom, what you want to say is, what do the top folks have and what are the skill sets, the hard skills, the soft skills that those leaders have or those managers have or those people have that the bottom group doesn't. Once you can identify them, you can then teach the group at the bottom and train the group at the bottom about what the top people have. And in essence, you can upgrade your team. One of the things we want to make sure is that, I try to do is make sure that my leadership team can transfer the skill set, because what happens is that when you get promoted, a lot of times you get promoted because you're a super doer. You're a super salesperson. You're super productive. I mean, you've got the talent, you've got the personality, you've got it all going on. You're in the groove. I mean, things are happening. But what happens is when you get promoted, you don't always have the experience to teach other people how to do that. So are you a super doer or a supervisor? And a lot of times we have to teach our new managers, our new leaders, how to be supervisors and how to manage the team. Let me ask you this question. When you look at your team, are you actively interviewing? And I think that's important. Are you always looking for people that could be added into your organization, that could help, could support, could create a new dimension or a new look to your team? We have something called Interview Fridays. And, in the health club business, we can actually have our members sign up. And if they want to have an interview, if they want to try to do some part-time work, some full-time work, or people come in and say, I want to fill out an application, we set that up for Friday morning. But I just remind you, are you always looking for people to add? Because once you do the ranking, you're going to have the people at the bottom that you try to teach, but maybe that doesn't necessarily work. And you got to make some changes, and you always have somebody in the funnel. What we find out, or what I found out, is that, I've got 3 categories of folks. They're either winning, they're losing, or they fall into this middle ground category. I hope that they work out. And I just ask you, do you have anybody in your group, on your team right now, that's in that middle category. Boy, you hope they're going to work out. You give them the benefit of the doubt, and a month has gone by and they didn't do the performance, or they didn't hit the quota, or they didn't have the accountability, or they didn't do the things that they were supposed to. And man, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and next month, boy, we're going to get it. And you got that positive attitude, and next month, and then that turns into we'll get it next month. And I think you kind of have to make some decisions. Is either they're winners, they're losers, or if they're in that bucket of hoping that they're going to work out, I think you need to create some deadlines and targets for them to be able to hit that. And if not, you're going to have to move on. And that's why I talk about train them or trade them. That's really what you have to do. You got to train your people up. And if you've trained them all you can train them, and we're still not hitting those pieces and parts, then probably it's time to trade them. You've heard this before, but I love it. It's long to hire and quick to fire. We just hired a VP of marketing, and we had many, many interviews for that VP of hiring. He interviewed with me probably 3 times. He interviewed with our board. He interviewed with different of our executives. He interviewed with some of the field people. And we just go through the process over and over and get different views and different perspectives, but long to hire. And isn't it true, when you're ready to let somebody go, you probably already said in your gut, man, I should have done that a little sooner. I should have made that happen a little bit sooner. Leave those emotions at the door. A lot of times, your guts really tell you what's happening. You know in your heart, in your gut if it's time to make a change. I would tell you this, is that your success, again, is directly proportional to the team that you can put around yourself. So, how do you spend your time with the team? How are you coaching them? How are you inspiring them? How are you teaching, training, educating, following up? And I got to tell you how important it is to show versus tell. There's a lot of people who love to be what I call a junior executive. A junior executive is a guy or gal that's in the office or just got promoted, and boy, they like to walk around and visit, store to store, or they like to visit branch to branch, and, they like to look around and, talk about what to do and tell people what to do and where they should be. But there's a difference between showing and telling. And man, I got to tell you, as a leader, people watch what you do more than they listen and do what you say. Remember that. They watch what you do more than they listen and do what you say. And so what you got to do is you got to roll those sleeves up. You got to take your hands and you got to dig them down in the dirt. And you got to get a little dirty. You got to get a little messy. And you got to feel the worms and the rocks and the dirt and the earth. And you got to get out there and actually show them. It's funny, when I go out and do a sale, or when I go out and try to do some lead generation and I take a group of people around, they love to see me screw up. They love to see me make a mistake. But that's okay. Not everybody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. It's okay to make some mistakes as you're showing your team. They'll respect you. You'll get street credibility. But I'm telling you, you got to show them versus tell them. I can't tell you how important it is, training, and training is never over. Learning is never over for the true professional. But you should be having, if you got a sales team, man, I'm recommending heads up meetings at least once a day. You say, well, Terry, what's a heads up meeting? A heads up meeting is a quick huddle, a quick get together where you go and role play. I call it drill for skill, but you drill for skill and role play a piece of the business. You could role play a telephone call. You could role play an inbound call. You could role play a lead generation script. You could role play a corporate lunch and learn program. You could role play a pre-close. You could role play the discovery questions, how to get to the root of what people came in the business for. You could role play a close. You could role play the price presentation. I mean, you just role play. People go, well, I get all embarrassed and I get all uptight when I role play. All I'm suggesting is the more you role play, the more mistakes you can make with me or with someone else in the business, a coworker. How much better is that than making a mistake with a customer? If you can do it right with me, you'll do it probably pretty good or excellent with a customer. And you say, well, I don't have time to do that. I'm telling you the story of the saw. The story of the saw was two men got together one day and they were sawing wood. And the one gentleman said to the other one, I'm going to saw a pile of wood 60 minutes out of every hour. And they were going to work 8 hours. And the one guy said, well, I'm going to saw wood and my pile of wood's going to be bigger than your pile of wood. And the one guy said, that's absolutely not true. And so they made a little bet, a little friendly wager. And the one guy said, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to saw wood 50 minutes. And then 10 minutes, I'm going to take a break. And the other guy laughed. He said, well, I'm absolutely going to beat you on that because I'm actually going to saw the wood 60 minutes out of every hour. And of course, 4 hours went by, 6 hours went by, and they're looking at each other's pile of wood. And finally, 8 hours, and the bell goes off, and it's time to stop. And sure enough, the guy that had sawed the wood for 60 minutes out of every hour had a pretty big pile of wood. But when he looked over at his friend, the gentleman that had just only worked 50 minutes out of every hour, his pile of wood was actually bigger. And so the question he said to his friend, he says, how in the wide world of sports did you ever get a pile bigger than mine when you only worked 50 minutes out of every hour? And his friend looked back down at him. He said, the reason that happened is because the 10 minutes that I was taking a break, I was actually sharpening my saw. And that's the story of training. People say, I don't have time to do training. I'm telling you, you don't have time not to do the training. You got to train your people. You've got to sharpen the saw, and you got to stay in the game. Other thing I wanted to just mention with your team, and we're going to go into part 2 of this for next week, but I wanted to kind of wrap it up here with just keeping your team in the loop of communication. How do you do that? Part of that is timely and accurate information, planning ahead, providing information about what they need in order to achieve their goals. What are their goals? Helping them to set their goals. I call it the great game of business. You've heard Jack Welch say that, but you also have your book of business. How do you create a book of business, meaning how many leads, how many calls, texts, or emails, how many appointments, how many intros, how many closes, how many follow-ups, how many referrals do I need to get? That's called the great game of your business if you're a salesperson. Let them know that you have their best interest at heart. Let your team know that you're here to help. You're not here to criticize. You're really only here to help. You're here to listen. Many times, they get the information late. And how much more effective could they be if they had a little bit more time to plan, a little bit more time to prepare, and they practice and they role play just a little bit more? How frequently are you communicating with your teams? How are you doing that? Are you doing it through text? Are you doing it through email? Are you doing it through WhatsApp? Are you communicating things that are really necessary in the form of a text that everybody doesn't get? Are you doing it in a timely fashion? And is communication happening 3 ways? Communication in any organization happens from the top down. It should be happening from the bottom up. And it should also be happening sideways, peer-to-peer networking, best practices. You should be having some best practices conversations within your group. In any case, I just wanted to mention a few of those things about putting your teams together. I can't tell you how important your success is based upon the people that you put around them, how well you train them, and how well you communicate with them. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about rewards and recognition and accountability to that team. Don't miss next Tuesday with Terry. We're going to talk a little bit more about the people management side. And if you know somebody that's a leader, that's a manager, that's a director that needs some tips on people management, invite them to tune in to Tuesday with Terry. My name's Terry. I'm your friend.